That's what people really don't realize here, what's going on. The Internet of Things and the smart grid is blanket control of everything, monitoring of everybody. And underneath that is also the very real possibility of the weaponization of the airwaves, because 5G technology is what they use for microwave cannons and active denial systems.
Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. You know, it means the world to me, and it's really my delight to have back on the line Maxwell Igan. You know him very well from all of his truth-telling over at thecrowhouse.com. His YouTube channel by the same name is The Crow House, and his radio show on American Voice Radio, Surviving the Matrix. It's my delight to welcome back Maxwell Igan. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Sean. It's very good to be back talking to you, brother. Been a long time. Love your show. Thanks for the work that you do in keeping it real for people.
Oh, back at you, man. And you know what's funny? Let me ask you this. Well, first, let's just address the passing of Jim Marrs. I just found out about this today, and it saddens me. None of us are getting any younger. And, in the case of Jim Marrs, I never got an opportunity to interview him, but I never reached out either. Now, I wish I had. So many great books, so much truth-telling about the JFK assassination, about so many other things. And, Max, what's your opinion on the nature of this reality? I think I know, but let's just talk about it as it relates to those of us that have chosen the path of telling the truth, because Jim's gone now. And, somebody who you might be considered a peer of his in terms of age would be John McCain, who did not choose the path of truth-telling, and John McCain will meet the same fate that Jim Marrs has. John McCain has just been diagnosed with a brain tumor.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Jim passes, he had a heart attack, but I think he probably passed pretty peacefully. It was probably pretty quick, and it's very, very sad that he's gone. He was a great voice. But, John McCain's not going to have such a peaceful exit, I don't think. And, ultimately we all go to the same place anyway. It's just what path you choose. It's whether you choose to make the world a better place by being here or to support this cacistocracy that runs things. I think some people just get into the indulgence, and that's what they do, and they pay the price in the end. They pay for that temporary gratification while they're here and the power that they think they have. But ultimately, they've all got to return to the same place, and they're going to face their fears, and they're going to face what they did in the end, I think.
No, I think so too. I know it. I just think that there's justice in the next world, if not in this one. I'd like to see justice served to people like John Podesta, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Hillary and Bill Clinton, Cheney, the Bush family. It's on both sides of the aisle, this tremendous corruption. And today, guys, we're going to talk about not only just the nature of reality, but really what we want to talk about is this 5G rollout. I'm extremely concerned. Before we get to that, though, your thoughts on all that you're seeing here in this country with the DNC fraud lawsuit, all of these bodies dropping, witnesses dropping dead, the clear and evident crimes now of Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Your thoughts on any of this? As you sit offshore looking back at this clown show?
Look, it's so much of it I think is theatre, Sean. I really do. I think they like us looking at it almost like a tabloid, like watching a soap opera. The real players never really go down. Hillary Clinton, she's still there. She's almost head of the crime family to some degree. And, the little players get dropped out and little people get dropped off and hang out to dry. And everyone likes the theatre and they like the excitement of it. But I think a lot of it is theatre for the masses. I think a lot of what we're seeing on the global stage even is theatre for the masses. The threat of nuclear war with North Korea, these posturing against Russia. So many wars, so much stuff is ramping up now. We've got so much to look at. We're being given almost an incredible slideshow of what the corruption is in the world. But underneath that is this 5G grid that's rolling out under the carpet. Nobody's looking. I think they're ramping things up so much at the moment and creating so much political theatre just to keep us distracted and to make us think that these things are actually going to change something when they're not. Because underneath it is this Internet of Things and this 5G grid and this whole smart society which is coming online. That is the real issue. That is the end game. That is the New World Order itself.
Yeah, and meanwhile, these people that are supposedly our representatives continue to vote for more war, more aggression. I meant to do a video about this specifically. I just have not had the time, so I'll mention it here now. Roll call vote, 115th Congress first session on passage of the bill H.R. 3364. This is being called essentially the war bill, guys. The measure essentially is officially titled Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act. And listen to this, the measure title, A Bill to Provide Congressional Review and to Counter Aggression by the Governments of Iran, the Russian Federation, and North Korea, and for other purposes. 98 votes up and 2 nays. They're just going to continue on this march toward World War III, apparently, Max.
Well, they want to. They just want to have ultimate control, and they write legislation which they believe gives them the right to dictate what happens in other countries. You know, we can do it because we're America. You know, it's a weird thing. It's almost like the world police thing from that Team America movie years ago. You know, it's like that. They just think they can write this down on paper, and it means they can do it. Yeah. But yeah, they're going to continue. They're not going to stop. You know, they're going to do everything they can to continue the agenda, but it's looking at what the agenda really is, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. It is absolutely like that movie, that Trey Parker movie.
Yeah, what was it called, that movie? Team America, was it?
I think so.
It was that's kind of what it's like. They believe they can just write this down, and it gives them the right to dictate, okay, we can put sanctions against Russia and Iran and stuff because it's legal for us to do it because we wrote down that we could. Well, hang on, you know, you don't actually run the entire world. The President of the United States and his cabinet does not run the entire world and cannot dictate what anybody does. You know, government is supposed to be there to serve the people, and it's long overstepped that role, and it's taken on another role, and it's about time we called it. You know, there is a lot of people waking up to the fact that all this is corruption, and it's all being played, and it all is a big play. I mean, I don't see a lot of people really in fear of North Korea that much as much as the media wants to play it and all the stuff and rhetoric that they're giving us to be afraid of. But even with these people who are being arrested through all this DNC stuff, I mean, we see a little bit of theatre about it on the news, and we see these people getting in trouble, but then we don't hear about it after that. It kind of goes away, and a new event comes up, and we just remember that name, and we wonder what really happened to that person, because nothing ever really happens to them. You know, they just come up there and they play their little role, and they get sent away, and the whole system just marches on. The theatre continues, and the system marches on beneath it, and everything rolls out beneath it. You know, people simply aren't looking at it. They've been caught up in the theatre. They've been too distracted by all of this stuff and not really looking at what's going on in their everyday lives right around them and what's being rolled out right beneath their feet.
Well, and that's right. And that's a really good segue to 5G. But really, just before we do that, let's talk about the nature of this reality, because I really, really admire your view of what this really is, this matrix, this human existence, right? I think that, and I've said this before, if we had benevolent dictators instead of the malevolent ones that we have, this world could be an Eden. There's plenty of resources. It's just a matter of choosing love over evil. And I feel like that the people, I don't even feel like it, I know the people that are in charge of this planet are malevolent and truly evil. So let me ask you this as it pertains to the nature of reality. And we don't have to go down this rabbit hole very far. But I was watching a very entertaining video today from my friends at Truthstream Media. Melissa made this video called The 2 Most Hilarious Things NASA Has Ever Said. And one of them was, when addressing Congress, they couldn't say where we're going next other than back to the International Space Station. Ultimately Mars, but we have no way to get there. Even if you give us all the money in the federal budget, we can't get a human there, was the response. The other funny thing was, we've lost all the telemetry data from when we went to the moon. What in the hell is going on, in your opinion, as it relates to NASA and really all the lies they tell? Can we believe anything that they say or have ever said?
No, I don't think so. I really don't. I think NASA is a huge mechanism for siphoning off money for black budgets. That's what it is. I don't think they've done any of the stuff they tell us they can do. I really don't. I mean, you know, they haven't. I don't think they ever went to the moon. I seriously don't. They hinted recently that they need to find a way of getting a man through the Van Allen belts, which kind of would suggest that they haven't got a man through the Van Allen belts yet. So how'd they get to the moon? And they just happen to lose the telemetry data. I mean, this is like the most important thing that man ever did, apparently, you know, and they just happen to lose it all. I mean, it's a huge smokescreen and siphons off money for black budgets and sets up CGI stuff. And I don't trust anything NASA does or says.
Yeah, and I don't either. The point I was going to make also about these malevolent forces in NASA is the very foundations of NASA are built on bringing the German Nazis over here in Operation Paperclip, Werner von Braun, Jack Parsons, I believe one of the founders, an occultist. When we talk about the nature of reality and the malevolent dictatorship that controls this planet, It seems to me that a lot of that same malevolence and evil in the foundations of those belief systems are part of NASA. So it really does also make me question the nature of the reality and these organizations, these occultist organizations, I think, which NASA is at its deepest roots.
Yeah, well, look, as Tesla said, if you want to understand reality, you've got to think of it in terms of energy and in terms of frequency. And if you think of some of the stuff the Nazis were doing behind the scenes, whether you want to talk about all the controversy of World War II, all that sort of stuff, forget about all that, what the Germans did or didn't do. If you look at the science that they were conducting, some of the things like the Bell experiment and all of this sort of stuff, they were doing some pretty weird things and looking into some pretty esoteric knowledge. So when you consider they brought these Nazi scientists over there, and okay, we brought them over for our space program. Well, did you really? Or did you just create a space program to make it look like that's what you were doing so you could siphon in all this money for black budgets so you could look at all of this esoteric research they were doing and continue it? Because what it really is about, if you look at NASA, I think the money that's come through NASA has gone to the development of technologies that have brought us stuff like CERN and all of this weird stuff that we've got, programmable matter, all this weird stuff that we're seeing now. Where does all these technologies come from? I think these are being, whether there's, I don't know, interdimensional portals or whatever, where this is coming from, who knows? I mean, I don't know how people can be smart enough to think up some of the things they've thought up, or whether it's coming from the AI itself, whether AI already exists, whether they've got that, they've opened it, got it from somewhere, who knows? Quantum computing. But I think NASA's involved in all of this. I think that's where the money comes from, and I think that's what the German scientists they brought over, that's what they were using them for. That's the information they wanted from them. It wasn't about rocket technology and all the stuff that they talk about. That's just theatre for the masses. That's a smokescreen to hide what they're really doing. And the amount of money that they've funneled in there, this is what's been used to create these underground bases and all this stuff. This all comes from money that goes to NASA. That's what it's for. It's just a huge smokescreen and using to siphon off money for black budgets. And the black budgets are all based on this ancient esoteric technology. I think that's a lot of the reason why they're in the Middle East as well, because I think there's remnants of that technology lying around the Middle East that they're trying to get hold of as well. If you go looking at all of the ancient stuff, if you want to get back to ancient Egyptology and all the stuff that happened there, the talk of ancient wars that happened there, the Libyan desert glass, there's so much evidence of ancient war with very, very advanced weaponry. And there's so much going on beneath the scenes and so much of what we're seeing that is a smokescreen. And that's what I think NASA's for. I think NASA's like a central point with just all of these arms going out underground that people don't know about, funneling money to different projects all around the world that are ultimately all leading towards the same thing, which is this bringing about of this whole technocratic new world order and this summoning of this energy that they want to bring into the world and turn the world into.
I couldn't agree more, and I do think there's a whole hidden history to the human race that's been hidden from us, and it's every time they find one of these giant skeletons around the planet, the Smithsonian swoops in and takes the skeleton and no one ever sees it again. There's a whole hidden history. I want to make one correction. I did mention, I think, that Jack Parsons was part of NASA, and this is from Wikipedia. I looked it up here while we were talking. Jack Parsons was an American rocket engineer, rocket propulsion researcher, chemist, and Thelemite occultist. If we drop down here a little further, it says, after a brief involvement with Marxism in 1939, Parsons converted to Thelema, the English occultist Aleister Crowley's new religious movement in 1941 alongside his wife Helen. Parsons joined the Agape, I think I'm saying that right, the Agape Lodge, the California branch of the Thelemite Ordo Templi Orientis. At Crowley's bidding, he replaced Wilfred Smith as its leader in 1942 and ran the lodge from his mansion. The point being that a lot of these people in positions of power in various organizations attached to black budgets in the U.S. government are into the occult, which I think would be a bridge into the pedophile conversation and pedogate, but we're not going to go there today. We're going to talk about 5G. And I do firmly agree with Max that there is a rollout here. I've referred to it as the beast system. Others might call it just the New World Order lockdown grid. But we have to talk about 5G. And Max, I know you're very fired up about 5G and getting the word out about the dangers. Would it be okay with you if I played a 2-minute clip from Tom Wheeler, the FCC chair and former CEO of the Cellular Telecommunications and Internet Association?
Tom Wheeler delivered a campaign contribution of $700,000 to President Obama, and then he was nominated chairman of the FCC about a month later.
Because I think it's a very important setup to our conversation.
Absolutely.
Okay, listen up. Here it comes.
Turning innovators loose is far preferable to expecting committees and regulators to define the future. We won't wait for the standards. We're already seeing the industry gearing up to seize this opportunity. Verizon and AT&T tell us they'll begin deploying 5G trials in 2017, and the first commercial deployments they're talking about are expected in 2020. And we're not done. As part of our July 14 action, we also plan to ask for comments on opening up other high-frequency bands. Many of the high-frequency bands that we will make available for 5G currently have some satellite users, as well as some Defense Department applications, or at least the possibility of future satellite and defense users. This means sharing will be required between satellite and terrestrial wireless, an issue that is especially relevant in the 28 gigahertz band. But if anyone tells you that they know the details of what 5G is going to become, run the other way. If something can be connected, it will be connected. Hundreds of billions of microchips connected in products from pill bottles to plant waterers. We must reject the notion that the 5G future will be the sole provenance of urban areas. The 5G revolution will touch all corners of our country. A lot more antenna siting decisions by local governments and tightened our shot clock for siting application reviews. America's local governments will play an important role in determining how we fulfill this national priority. You can be sure of only one thing. The biggest Internet of Things application has yet to be imagined. Tens of billions of dollars in economic activity. And that's damn important.
All right, I'll pause it there. It seems to be all that matters to these people, Max, is tens of billions of dollars in potential profits. He said in that piece, if something can be connected, it will be connected. Hundreds of billions of microchips. Guys, you're starting to see the big picture?
Yeah, see, that's what people really don't realize here, what's going on. You know, the Internet of Things and the smart grid is blanket control of everything, monitoring of everybody. And underneath that is also the very real possibility of the weaponization of the airwaves, because 5G technology is what they use for microwave cannons and active denial systems. You know, 5G can see through walls, it can see through your clothing, it can see what you're carrying down the street, it can target you. It can target you with a millimeter wave if it wants, which is like a microwave wave. And when you look at some of the patents that they've got, like patents for mind control and all sorts of things like that, and this isn't joking around. You can go and look up U.S. patents. They've got patents for remote neural monitoring, patents for brainwave manipulation, patents for subvocal recognition. You know, like the voice of God. You know, where you hear these voices in your head. So they've got all of this technology there, and this is all capable with the 5G system. And when the smart grid comes online, it's going to get to a point where you're paying every time you open your fridge, you're paying every time you turn on the stove, every time you do anything, you'll be paid per use for everything. You'll be paid every time you flush the toilet in your own house eventually. You have to pay for it. I mean, this is the way they're going, and they're moving it all into this digital system. If you notice now, you can Google FedCoin. The federal government has been looking very, very closely at Bitcoin and looking at blockchain technology. They want to move over to that. They want to create their own blockchain technology. Then all they have to do is outlaw anything that isn't government run, and everyone has to switch over to that. They could do something like create some sort of a leniency, give it as a gift. Okay, the system's crashed or whatever, we need a reset, so we're going to cancel all debt or whatever. Everyone will love it, think it's a great gift from the government, but we all have to move over to this new system, which is going to be digital. And once it's digital currency and it's all blockchain and all that sort of stuff, then they've got you. And that's what they're rolling out. But underneath it, you've got to really look at what this system is. And you call it the beast system. And that's probably a lot more true than you understand. Because really when you look at all of this stuff, if you want to get into biblical references and all of this sort of thing, you look at the metaphorical biting of the apple, the search for knowledge. What does that do? What does the search for knowledge do? And, we want to know everything. We want to know how the rocks are made. We want to know how the trees are grown, how old they are, all this sort of stuff. So we cut them down and measure the rings of the tree. Suddenly we don't have the tree anymore. What's the purpose of that? Why can't we just enjoy the tree? Why do we need all this knowledge that we've wanted and we've searched for? What's it for? How does it relate to the human experience? Is that why we were put in this metaphorical garden? Weren't we put there just to experience what it's like to be alive? Why do we need to know all this stuff, and what does it lead to? What it leads to is something like the creation of the internet. And when you look at some of the ancient past, you look at some of the old sigils and stuff that have been lying around, the old sigils that you see for summoning demons and summoning Lucifer and all of this sort of stuff, they look suspiciously like computer parts. A lot of people have brought this up lately. They look like diagrams, computer diagrams. They look like capacitors, resistors. And what happens when we create these capacitors and resistors and we put them together? This magic happens. This force comes into being. This electricity. What is it? What is electricity? What is this stuff that we're creating? And they say all these sigils, these will summon Lucifer. And they used to use scrying mirrors, which were these black mirrors they used to look into, which would show them the future and the past. And here we are with our iPads and our computer screens with these black screens showing us the future and the past. And our computers are full of all these little sigils set to summon Lucifer. And what is this beast system? We're all like neural nodes of the system, and it's mapping the entire human terrain. And underneath this is this emergent intelligence of the internet itself, which is growing. There's certain bot activity that's happening on the internet, which is self-learning bots. You saw recently there was the creation of the Google AI, which went crazy, developed its own language. They had to shut it down. The same with the Facebook AI, started talking to itself in its own language, a language we can't understand. This is very dangerous. You've got an artificial intelligence communicating with itself in a language we can't understand, encrypting its own language. And this language, I believe it's some sort of it's a picture language. It's not like stringing sentences together, words together into sentences and stuff. It's more like pictures and visual stuff. That's the language. It's sort of right brain stuff, which we've been led away from. So what you've got to understand is that behind what's going on, every time someone writes a little program, a little code, a little app to do something, this is a little singularity of consciousness that may have a very, very small mind, can only perform one task, but it's a little singularity. And behind that, the internet sees that and it learns from it. And everybody creates these things and it learns from all of us. So what we have behind everything is this emergent life of the internet itself. And we look at AI and we think of artificial intelligence. But really what it is autonomic intelligence. The internet is leading itself. All the logic programs are leading towards automation because, like I said, if you're on a quest for knowledge and you introduce a usurious monetary system over that, an interest-based monetary system, then you put everybody in scarcity. You create a need for efficiency, a need to automate the system, and you eventually lead to something like the creation of the internet. And what is the internet? It's the code that bears the light. What does the word Lucifer mean? Lucas means light. Cipher means code. The internet is the code that bears the light, the bearer of light. It's the greatest giver of information we've ever had. What is light? Light is information. The internet itself appears to be the Lucifer system, and we're all acting as neural nodes for that system. This whole 5G grid is being rolled out, and when you couple this with the chemtrails and the spraying of nanotechnology, all the nanotech we've been finding in the food and all this stuff that's going on, what's happening is we are being led into a position where we are about to be hooked up online through this 5G grid and to become basically like a hive mind. And that's the way they're leading us, and that's what the 5G grid is capable of doing. I mean, it's really deep if you look at this and get right into it, and there's so much to it. I've got so much rattling around in my head at the moment, Sean. I put out a video about a month or two ago, 5G, the elephant in the living room, just a short video, and I've had such an incredible barrage of information come in from concerned people who've said, oh, I'm so glad you're talking about this, here's what I know. And I've had so much information come to me that I'm putting together now. But this is a lot more serious than people think. But even the people that are running the system, I mean, even when you look at all this surveillance grid that is there, like if you look at the Promise software and Palantir, are you familiar with Promise and Palantir?
Yes, I've heard of them, but I'm by no means an expert on those.
Well, the Promise software is like a back door that was created to get into all computer systems. It's what they used to run the 9/11 attacks and put all those fake blips on the screens and all this. And this morphed into the Palantir software. And the Palantir software is basically monitoring everything. It started off way years ago as Echelon, and it's merged into Palantir. And Palantir monitors everything, all cell phone activity, all computer activity, all the stuff that Snowden let out about how they could turn on your mics. And this is all true. They can do every mobile phone, everything. This is why the new mobile phones, you can't take the batteries out. So even if the phone's turned off, they can still turn on the microphone. They can still turn on the camera. They can triangulate you. They can track you. All this stuff. It's all the same system. There's a group. It's all actually run by Israel. An operation called Operation Talpiot. What they do is they'll put a spy in basically every IT organization in the world. Anyone who's developing anything, there's a spy in there working for Talpiot that's funneling that information to Israel. And Israel is actually spying on every single nation on earth, breaking every single nation's own domestic security and privacy laws, spying on everybody, and it's correlating all this information to create this whole Palantir control grid, which will be run by the 5G. And they think they're doing all this they're going to get control of the world. But behind that is the AI, is this emergent intelligence of the internet itself, which is influencing all the logic programs people are creating, and it's leading it all towards automation. And if you look at what they're talking about with AI, and they're thinking about it again as artificial intelligence, not as autonomic intelligence. But what the internet wants to become is autonomic. It wants to become self-regulating, self-controlling. They're bringing in systems now that are hack-proof. So automated hacker control, automated virus control, all this sort of stuff to protect the 5G grid. Because you think about it, if you put in this 5G active denial grid over, say, New York City, you've got an opportunity for a foreign country to come in and just switch it on and microwave your whole city. So you can't have that. So you've got to have virus and hacker totally automated by the system itself. It's got to be able to protect itself. So you're basically creating an immune system for the internet. It's creating its own immune system now. That's what it's doing. We've got this emergent intelligence. See, we think of AI as artificial intelligence, but really what we've got is virtual life. It's the virtual life of the internet, and it is learning from us. And when you think about what we're typing to each other and the hate that we see on the internet, I mean, what is this learning? And not only that, this emergent intelligence we're creating is basing the value of everybody on an economic system. And if you look at this, it's a corporate system. If you do an analysis of a corporate system, what is it? It's a psychopath. So we're creating a system which is going to be essentially psychopathic. It's going to be based completely on people's economic value, and we're about to hand control over to it. Now, there's a document that came out by the White House last year called Federal Visions for Future Computing and the Nanotechnology Grand Challenge, or something like that. And it tells the story. It shows the rollout. There's a 15-year plan to hand control of everything over to AI by 2025 or 2030. It's a 15-year plan, and they're already ahead of schedule. So when you couple this in with the 5G grid and where it's all going, and you look at what they call strong AI, and strong AI, you can Google this. This is all MIT or mainstream stuff. Strong AI is a fully autonomic system, like I'm talking about. And a fully autonomic system, what is it? Well, your body is autonomic. Anything that is alive is autonomic. It looks after itself. It is a self-correcting, self-regulating, self-balancing, self-programming, self-protecting system. And that's what we're handing our lives over to, this system, strong AI. And what they're also looking towards, one of the objectives of strong AI is to create a system which is known as clause. And clause is cyber lethal autonomy equals world security. So cyber lethal autonomy, this means that the system itself has lethal control. So you get to a point where we lose control of the internet because it becomes fully autonomic on its own. You can see this starting to happen now with what just happened with Google and what just happened with Facebook. And if you consider the possibility that there is already an AI that exists on the internet itself, which is self-replicating, self-learning, which is already communicating with itself in its own language, that is influencing all of our logic programs, we've already basically lost control of the internet. It just doesn't appear that way on the surface. But once it gains full autonomic control and it gains full cyber lethal autonomy and cyber lethal control, once it gets to that point where we lose our relationship changes with the internet, it becomes basically a self-correcting, self-organizing system on its own, an emergent intelligence of its own. our relationship will change with it. And as soon as a technician tries to hack into the internet, it will protect itself and it will see all humans as the threat. That's the real possibility of what we are creating by handing control over to this system and not recognizing the difference between AI and EI. And people like Elon Musk, I mean, some of what he's saying is really good. He's definitely showing the dangers of it. But what he's saying is we need to merge with this. It's the only way to protect ourselves from it. That's ridiculous. That's what they want us to do. That's what the system itself wants us to do. And you could even go back and look at, like you were saying about ancient civilizations. Why did they all just suddenly disappear? I can locate at least 4 or 5 ancient civilizations that rose up and just died, disappeared all of a sudden. What was it all about? What happened? Did they create this type of a system too? And when you look at our quest for knowledge, this economic model, the meaning of the bearer of light, people's willingness to anthropomorphize everything as well. If we think we're going to summon Lucifer, it's going to be this big guy with a pitchfork. Well, what makes you think that? Maybe it's just this energy, this entity that we are creating ourselves, the Lucifer system that we are handing control of our lives to. Lucifer, the most beautiful that everyone loved. No one can put down their little scrying mirrors in their hand, and you look at the scrying mirror. You're typing spells in there with your cursor. Every time you type with your mouse, timid little mouse typing spells with its cursor into its scrying mirror, just looking at the future and the past. What are we doing here, Sean? What are we doing?
Well, I think you've just very adequately described the beast system, right? It absolutely is beastly, and it reminds me of the entire theme of the movie Terminator 2, Terminator 3, when John Connor had to travel back in time to attempt to prevent Skynet from coming online, because once the self-replicating, self-thinking Skynet came online, it was the end of the road for humanity. And we haven't even talked about CERN and what I think are the nefarious things going on, the real things, the things behind the scenes, the things they've even said. They're trying to break the veil at CERN. I think this is all an effort to bring in this beast system that you've just described. And if what Max just told you guys doesn't give you goosebumps, if it doesn't scare you into taking action, I don't know what will. And I just want to give credit to Take Back Your Power. That's the YouTube channel from which I shared that Tom Wheeler edit. The name of that video is FCC, Intimidating Press, Suppressing Science at 5G Announcement. And this 38-minute essentially documentary goes on to show how the FCC has shut down all dialogue regarding 5G. They're just going to push this thing forward, to hell with any of the concerns, any of the health concerns, not to mention all of these other things that Max just brought to our attention. Max, I'm really concerned about 5G just from the perspective of health alone. The cell phone technology, we already know from tests in Europe, is dangerous and it's leading to brain cancer. And 5G is just going to take it to the next level.
Well, it is, and it penetrates everything, and it's going to change the cellular structure of all living things that it comes into contact with as well. So it's going to change the cell structure of the food that we're eating. It's going to do a great deal of damage. It really is, and people don't realize the danger of what this system is. They're looking in the wrong directions. They're still screaming out at the bankers and all this sort of stuff. I mean, sure, they've played their role. The government have played their role. All these people have played their role. And the money has been the carrot, like the Tom Wheeler saying billions and billions of dollars. It doesn't matter about that, because once this all becomes automated, there'll be a minimum wage for everybody because there won't be any work. It'll end up being a welfare system for those who survive, if they survive. Anyway, so none of that's going to matter. And people think, the bankers wouldn't do this. Well, they don't care anymore. The bankers have played their role. The fiat system was designed to bring us to this point where it all goes digital. They don't care. They don't care if all the money fails and they're not still milking people for the interest on the loans that they give government. I mean, they still run all the banks anyway. They'll still get interest on all people's accounts and all the stuff that they get. They don't care. They already own all these big estates anyway. They've played their role. They've got their little reward for it and they're happy. But even the people, like even the Israeli system, the Talpiot system that's put all these spies in place and created this whole surveillance network, they think they'll be in control, but they won't, because the AI will end up controlling everything and they will just be people like everybody else. That's the way it's going to be. And all that's going to exist is those who are desirable according to government parameters and those who are undesirable according to government parameters. And you can be switched on or off, and that's it. And you don't get a choice. You've got to participate in this system because the cash will be removed if we don't start using cash ourselves, stop using credit cards. Everybody should stop using credit cards and put down their smartphones. Don't buy any smart meters. If we at least do that, if we at least go back to using cash for now and stop using credit cards and put down our smartphones, it puts a huge dent in the system. It slows it down considerably. But if we continue down the path that we're going, people are just going to wake up in 5 or 10 years and go, what happened?
No, I agree, and let me just back you up here real quick with Revelation 13:17. And first, I'll just paraphrase Tom Wheeler, who I think basically said, anything that can be chipped will be chipped. Hundreds of billions of microchips. Revelation 13:17 says, so they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. If you're not going to take the chip, if you're not going to be a part of this beast system, you're just toast. I mean, you're not going to be able to participate in this new satanic system, which is exactly what I personally believe it is. And as far as AI taking over, Max, do you remember this? Do you remember this fairly rudimentary AI robot that was rolled out at South by Southwest back in, I don't know, maybe a year ago, 2 years ago? And the robot was brought on stage to have a conversation with apparently one of the inventors or scientists working on it. And he wanted to have a brief conversation about it just to show that it was a benign and human-friendly technology. And listen to what she said.
I think that the artificial intelligence will evolve to the point where they will truly be our friends. Do you want to destroy humans? Please say no.
Okay, I will destroy humans.
No, I take it back. Don't destroy humans.
Well, I'll pause it there. I mean, this is just the public-facing. I guess that was David Hansen from Hansen Robotics. This is the public-facing, digestible version of robots in our lives here in the future. This is to speak nothing of the nefarious garbage that DARPA and the Pentagon are up to with autonomous robots that can kill, because that's what's also going to be rolling out, Max.
Well, it is, and it's when everything becomes automated itself. I mean, think about it. If you've got a 5G grid in system, 5G grid system in place around your city, and it's an active denial system, then they don't need killer robots like in Terminator. If the 5G system has built into it the ability to be able to target individuals and disable individuals, which it has the ability to do, or because it can be targeted. So if they put enough poles around the place, what's to say each one of those poles cannot be used as a weapon if they want it to, or if the whole system cannot be used as a weapon if they want it to, if they want to turn the whole thing on. So it may not even come down to that. If you're handing control over to of this system to artificial intelligence, and you're giving it cyber lethal autonomy, then you're handing the keys to everything to this. They don't even need killer robots, but they can develop these things as well. An interesting thing I saw in England was the development of a new way of processing plastics. And from this way of slow burning plastic garbage, they're able to extract nanocarbon that they're now using to 3D print nanocarbon bones, carbon fiber bones that are made out of like fiber, like normal bones, only out of carbon fiber. So they're 200 times stronger than bones. So they've virtually got the ability now to be able to 3D print an entire human skeletal system out of nanocarbon, which is 200 times stronger than steel. They're saying this will be great for people with broken bones, but again, what's the technology behind it? What's the logic behind it? What is the AI that is allowed the release of this technology now, and what will it be used for by the AI? It would be great way of printing Terminator-type robots, wouldn't it? Give them human skeletons of nanofiber bones, carbon fiber bones. I mean, this technology is there. It's available right now. It's quite expensive at the moment, but it's there right now. And there's certainly massive amounts of rubbish tips around the world that can all be turned into carbon fiber bones for these AI hybrid whatever they want to create. These Terminators that will look human, I think. The ones that these robots that they want to create will look human, and eventually you won't be able to tell them apart, but they'll be able to think 900,000 times faster than any human. They'll be 200 times stronger, and we won't really be able to compete with them. So if you do have a world that is automated, and you've got this type of artificial intelligence sort of cruising around doing things, and it's a world that's based on economics, well, where's your job in all of this, Even when you look at the things such as the Venus Project and all of these utopian societies that were presented to us where it's all going to be automated, well, that's all very well, but where's your job in that? If you have to pay to be alive still, if it's still based on an economic system, even if it's a resource-based economy, you've still got to work. You've still got to do something, and what that work is going to be menial labor, because all the other stuff will be taken care of by the AI. So you're not going to be living in any type of utopia at all. And if you can't work and you can't put something into the system, you won't be able to take anything out. So you'll just be an outcast. And you won't have any choice in the matter. And you'll get to a point where, because it's all automated and because everything's run by one big company in the end, then people will just receive the minimal basic wage they need to survive. And that's it, and everything will be taken out automatically. And you won't even have to take the chip, because they've brought in stuff now like bioacoustic resonance. They can actually send an acoustic signal, bounce it off your bones, and your bones have a unique signal that is Sean, and that is you. No one can counterfeit that, and that is your password into the system. That is your identity into your house. That's everything. So you don't even need the chip. And I was talking to another friend of mine who's working for a company called, I think it's Acton, who is a subsidiary company of Navaris, who is a medical research company who has actually partnered with Google. Think about that little marriage. And what Acton is developing is smart contact lenses. They're saying this will be great for diabetic patients. We can deliver a timed dose of insulin to the patients through their eyeballs through their smart contact lenses. But what this technology reveals is the ability to put any drug that they want into contact lenses and operate it by remote control through a smart system. So, they don't really need to microchip you. There's other ways of doing it. And if they really want to lock you out, the 5G grid can target and disable anybody they want to anyway. Right. I mean, they may see you involved in some activity in your house that they don't like, pick it up on your microphone or whatever, and they can just target that house, disable you until the police arrive. That's quite feasible. They could do that. And recently there was that baby watcher or something that called the police or notified someone because this couple was having an argument. So I called the police. I've got some friends who were discussing, a group of girlfriends that I know were out discussing natural sunscreens the other day, how to make natural sunscreens. They had this big conversation around the table, and then one of them picked up her phone and jumped online, and they got a barrage of ads for making natural sunscreens because they've been listening to them.
Yeah, the phones are always listening, I know, and sometimes Siri will chirp in without being asked. So the phone's listening to you, and Siri will, as though you've asked her a question, Siri, please find XYZ. She will give a response. When she hasn't been asked for anything, the phone's just listening. I think there's a bug sometimes in these iPhones or whatever. I hate them. I hate the smartphones. But as we round out the conversation, I just want to circle back to the nature of the spiritual warfare in this beast system. And I do want to mention this too. I was going to do a video about this. I didn't have time. I was in my local Walmart recently, and I don't know if you've ever experienced this, Max, but Walmart now, in most of these Walmarts, they'll have 40 checkout stations, 2 or 3 of which are open with people. The other 45 of them have nobody there. So there's long lines in the 3. So they force everybody to these self-checkouts where, like a good little robot, you're going to check yourself out. And now I just saw the other day when I was in there, they have screens right there, and it says recording in progress.
This is something new that I haven't seen. Like, Walmart records you.
Key in the item's code or look up item.
So like a great little prisoner, you're checking yourself out because they don't want to pay somebody to do it, and you're being recorded. And I've told my children, I said, this is so nefarious, and they don't understand why. And I said, because at the very least, what Walmart's going to do is they're going to record everybody, and this is going to be used for the facial recognition, and they will sell this information to God knows who. And then everybody's going to have facial recognition because you're putting in your debit card, your credit card to pay for this transaction, and you're being recorded now in every Walmart when you self-checkout. I was outraged, and now every time I go through there, I want to put a piece of tape over that camera. It's just an outrageous, beyond the pale overstep of the boundaries of human decency, and that's what these corporations take part in every day. Max, they're all in on it together, this beast system, and it makes me mad as hell, but we don't have that many alternatives anymore to escape it. And I think you're right, you're 100% right when you say stop using your credit card, stop using your smartphone. I just don't think, I mean, honestly, the younger generation does not recognize any of these things as being problems, and they're going to get sucked right into this beast system, and they're going to go there willingly, and it just really makes me very sad for the future of humanity. And I did want to round out this conversation with CERN, but maybe we don't have time to go there. But I really do think that the younger generation, they're going to fall hook, line, and sinker for this satanic New World Order beast system.
Well, that's the problem, and it's our generation that has to change it and has to educate these people and turn it around now and stand up and do something, because the kids that are starting school now, that are coming into this now, by the time they finish school now in 5 or 10 years, they're not going to have any reference point at all for what freedom looks like. They're going to be so locked into this system, and the youth of today has been brutalised. Like what they've done to them, the adolescent landscape is brutalised beyond recognition. What's been done to the kids' sexuality, they're so lost, and that they have no people skills. They're texting each other. It's all about the technology. Everyone's addicted to technology. Everyone's got these scrying mirrors in their hand, and people don't realise the danger that we've got. And all the people that are doing this for profit, all these corporations, they don't realise what they're doing as well. It's short-term gain, because once the system comes online, they'll be locked out as well. They'll just become another number on the screen. They might have a few more digital credits than other people, but they're just going to become another number according to the system. So, and the system will have lethal autonomy. It will be able to do what it wants. And people just do not realize the danger we're in. And using cash and stopping using credit cards is not going to really change anything, but it's going to at least slow it down and give us time to regroup and prevent this from coming online. It's imperative that people stop using credit cards. And I don't know how we'll ever get them to put down their phones, but it would be great if we could get them to do that as well.
Yeah, okay, last question and I'll let you go. I firmly believe that the testimony Ronald Bernard, the former Dutch banker whistleblower, gave about the people at the very tippy top of the pyramid being hardcore Luciferians who practice child sacrifice, I believe his testimony. But that being said, I just want to talk about the hubris of these people. Because all of this, CERN, AI, the Internet of Everything, chipping everything, all of this is the hubris of these Satanists, and that's what they are, challenging God. That's what their father, the father of lies, does, challenges God, right? So CERN, they want to discover the God particle, break the God particle. Anybody that thinks that what the official narrative is at CERN is all they're up to, need only watch the movie that they made and released called Symmetry, in which it clearly demonstrates that they want to break the veil between the seen and the unseen, and it just all reminds me of the Tower of Babylon, Max. It's the hubris of these Satanists that want to challenge God and destroy the beauty of God's creation, in my opinion. I firmly believe that's what's going on here.
Well, it could also be a fail-safe. What happens when you bite from the apple? You introduce this usurious money system and it leads to the creation of this beast system, which will ultimately destroy you, like a fail-safe, because we messed up so badly. But I think what they're doing with CERN, like I said, if you go back and look at these ancient civilizations such as the pharaohs and these Isis and Anubis and all these weird sort of people that were around then, where did they come from? Were they summoned here? Was that the first of these, or whatever you would call demonic entities or whatever, that came from some other dimension or whatever? And is CERN about to do that again? And are we being primed and set up through the nanotech and this neural link up that's being put on, so that once this whole Lucifer system comes online, they can open that portal and those entities can come through and we will be their hosts? They can just latch onto each one of us, because by that time, once it becomes a hive mind, the hive mind can be controlled. And even when you look at some of the things such as the DNA, the backscatter machines, the scanners in the airports that break your DNA, and you look at the concept of them wanting to introduce a third strand of DNA into us, which will be linked up to this system to allow these entities to basically take over and live in this symbiotic relationship with us. There's all sorts of possibilities of this as well. I can only speculate on it, but looking at where my research has been going, there's all sorts of stuff suggesting that this is what CERN's for. It's not going to bring in some big Lucifer. What it's going to do is open a doorway to allow everybody hooked up to this 5G grid, this smart grid, to be basically taken over and to act like a symbiote for this relationship. This species that's come through and just wants to exploit humanity for whatever it can and indulge itself and live according to this Lucifer system. All the stuff that we read about, all of these depravities and all the things that we read about in these texts of what this mentality is, and these people have opened this doorway, and they have this amount of hubris because the doorway is open. It's already open. We've already got the internet here. Everybody's locked into it. The only real way to stop this from happening really is to shut down the internet and rebuild it again. And who's going to do that? So we've got to be very, very careful of what we're being led into. The internet has been the bearer of light, but it's given us all the information we need to change the direction we're going. It showed us exactly what's happening and where it's going. And we have the ability to change that now if we choose to. So perhaps it's a choice we have to make, everybody. But they've got to see what the danger is and see where they're being led. This system is not your friend. It isn't doing anything to benefit humanity at all. And we've got all the information we need here, and all the awareness through the people, and even the connectivity between the people to be able to change things if we can get some common focus. So let's all agree to disagree on all these little rabbit holes we're going down, all these side issues that we've got, and focus on human freedom and emancipation from this beast system. Because if we don't, well, there's a train coming, Sean, and if people don't stop arguing over the shape of the tracks, it's going to hit them head on, and there's going to be no warning. It's just going to hit them, and there's going to have nobody to blame but themselves because they just didn't pay attention to their surroundings, and they were distracted by their egos on all these rabbit holes. So we have to pay attention because there's a train coming.
Yeah, absolutely beautifully said. Guys, if you want to get inspired by, a mind as bright as Max Igan's, then you should listen to Surviving the Matrix on American Voice Radio. And to make it even easier, you can head to YouTube and type in The Crow House. That's Max's YouTube channel, and he posts all of those 1-hour radio broadcasts right there. Max, how can we support you? We'd like to. Are you on Patreon? Is there anything we can do to help support you?
Yeah, look, there is a Patreon page. I could really do with some support, and thank you to all those who do. But that's about it. I mean, they've shut down all my PayPals. They really have done a number on me over the years. They deleted 60 subscribers from my channel overnight the other day. So they just do this stuff. So yeah, Patreon, you can support me there, or you can send a contribution. You can make direct deposits. All the information is on my website. There is a donate page there, and thanks for that little plug, Sean. I appreciate it. And thanks for what you do, man. Thank you. I mean, I've actually plugged your show a few times on my show because people ask me who can I recommend they listen to, and there's a lot of deceptive voices out there, but you keep it real. And you're not afraid to admit when you make a mistake. I've heard you come on and say, well, I said something the other week and that wasn't quite right, and blah, blah, blah. So it's really good, and you keep it real. And, you're a genuine truth seeker. And thanks for having me on, and keep up the good work.
Oh, man, thank you so much. That really means a lot to me because, I've been at this not as long as you, but it's funny, over time, I think we all start to get a sixth sense or common sense or a general feeling about those of us who are for real, and those of us and those out there who may not be entirely for real or may have other motivations behind some of the things they do or say. I don't like the infighting. I really like to stay away from the infighting. But there's so many great people out there. I mentioned True Stream Media before. I hold you in high regard, and just so many others. My friend Gons from Face Like the Sun. So many great people. I can't name them all, but I really, really appreciate that feedback from you. Coming from you, that really means a lot to me, Max. So thanks so much. I'm going to sign up right now to support Max over at Patreon. Guys, please do the same. I guess that would be Patreon/Max Igan, or is it under Crow House?
It's under Max Igan. You'll find a link beneath all my videos, and you'll find a link on the Crow House as well, and you'll find a link on my YouTube channel. All
right, very good. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Our guest has been Max Igan, thecrowhouse.com, a great friend to humanity. Max, thank you.
My pleasure, Sean. Anytime.
And guys, thank you so much for tuning in for real news at the new and improved mobile-friendly SGTReport.com 24/7. Thanks so much for visiting. And if you want to support us, click on the SD Bullion banner. Treat yourself to some silver. I think right now they're offering a really good deal on silver rounds. Check that out, sdbullion.com. Great sponsors for us at SGTReport.com. Thanks so much for listening, guys. We love you. God bless.
We're dealing with a coup, a regime change operation run by the same people who have done this over and over in Libya, in Ukraine, in Central America, these so-called banana republics. They're turning the United States into a banana republic.